Hello, botanists.
Sounds good.
We are recording. Yay! Lucas, take it away.
All right. Good to see all of you. Hope everyone's doing quite well as we head into the weekend. I was going to say finishing up their week well, but I know that it just all seems to blur together right now. So every day is kind of just a continuation of the one before sometimes. But it would be great just to kind of do a check-in and see maybe where everyone's at, how they're feeling. Maybe you could share a win or share something you're trying to work on or maybe get help on today. But maybe if we want to just go through and each person kind of check in. I know for me, I'm kind of hitting a little bit of a wall a little bit today, so it's going to be nice maybe to have Saturday morning to get outside and do something else besides stare at my computer screen. So that's kind of my check-in. I'm excited for some Lucas and family time tomorrow morning. But it might be good to go around and just kind of hear a little check-in from everybody.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, Ruth, that would be great.
All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I have to show you my new t-shirt. Can you see it?
Was that for Star Wars Day?
Well,
May the 4th?
Yeah. Yesterday was my birthday, and my son got this for me because I'm a big Star Wars fan. So I love it. I had to wear it for you today.
And you were born very close to May the 4th Day.
I was. Anyway, all is well. You guys kind of know I'm not teaching, but there's lots of conversation about fall and what are we going to do. And I don't teach botany in the fall, so I'm not sure how well you can answer. But I do teach a biology majors course, cell and molecular. And I'm planning on going online, and then we have a lot of options that came out. One is pretty much a hybrid with social distancing and maybe class reduction size. That was the one that seemed most interesting to me. But I'm unsure about a biology majors course not having an in-person lab. And with, the requirement of being apart, we just are doing it. But has there been any discussion on, is that class still transferable from a community college without an in-person lab? Has anybody talked about that? And is it still just always better to be in person, or with the way technology has gone, is it like as good to be online versus in person for a lab situation? I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering what the people in the trenches are feeling about online labs and student safety. Should I still try to do in person if possible, or I don't know. I'm curious what discussions have been where you are.
Yeah, Ruth, I think that's a conversation that's happening everywhere right now. I know at LCC we were told May 13th they'll have a decision on what we'll be doing in the fall. Sorry, you can hear my daughter singing in the background. But I think that a lot of universities are already, some are looking online, some have said they're going to be back face-to-face. I don't think, I would highly doubt there'll be a bunch of transfer problems with this year. I think people are going to be super understanding with what's going on. Not that there isn't always sticking points around those. But I'd love to hear what everybody else wants to maybe, as we check in, we're going to go down the line. If Stephanie wants to go next and check in, we could each share some of our thoughts around that kind of sticking point you're talking about, Ruth. I think that'd be a great idea.
And Ruth, I am dying, only because I'm not a botanist, nor have I ever taught majors biology, but I have so many thoughts based on the majors biology conversation. So I'm so excited that we get to talk about this. Okay, but we're still checking in. Lucas, facilitator, I hear you. Just know I'm dying. Muting myself.
Okay, me too. I should do that.
I'll check in. Like Ruth, I'm not teaching this quarter, but thinking ahead to fall. One thing I will report is that I finished a draft of my fully online botany class that I intend to teach in winter. And so I'll be posting the labs that I've put together for that. It's a non-majors botany class. And I'm happy to share, but I would love your feedback. You know, some things I'm happy with and some things I'm definitely less than happy with. Um, yeah, I'll get that up. Yeah, it's a sunny Friday afternoon, so maybe on Monday. Thinking ahead to fall, we are in the middle of that scheduled conversation, and we're our Planet Centralia College basically is put together lab schedules for those high priority science classes. We'll put a plan together in case we can meet online, or excuse me, face-to-face. Labs will be at about half capacity, so we'll set up extra sections. So I'm sort of preparing for that and thinking about, well, I doubt we'll really get to meet for labs all quarter. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get to start with labs, but then we'll have to go online. So I'm thinking also about rearranging the, and this could apply to any class, rearranging the order of the content so that I can get in the labs that maybe have the higher priority skills. You know, there are a lot of things you can do analyzing data and thinking about things and looking at images online, but there's skills like, oh, maybe microscopes that just won't be happening online. So I'm thinking about shifting some of those things around. I remember Stephanie had posted some what looks like really good labs for doing nature observations on your own. So I usually start with ecology, and I'm going to see if there are any of those that I can put into that class. So that's more or less where I'm at.
Thanks, Lisa. That's fantastic. I'm excited to see. I'm not a botanist, but I'm excited to see your course for winter. And it looked like Chrissy put in here. She's teaching a non-majors botany in the winter quarter. So perfect. That's awesome.
Can I just also say, because we're recording and I wrote it in the chat, Lisa, until you said that, I hadn't really thought about this COP as almost like some meetings could be peer review. You know, like I'm an English faculty member, so you know, like peer review, you know, like I'll show you my stuff and we'll walk through a process and I'll give you feedback and I'll tell you what works. And I just hadn't really thought about it until you said that. But of course, if people have stuff that they'd like to get feedback on, that could be a really fun use of the COP time. So just wanted to get that out there.
I agree. If I'm adding things that get talked about here to continue our conversation after everybody checks in, would someone else like to check in next?
I'll go ahead. At Green River, each faculty has been asked to basically, at least in science, to decide for themselves what they're comfortable with their classes being for the fall, which led to lots of panic and extra meetings and departments trying to figure out if we had policies. But for biology, we've tried to give students options. So we had a couple of adjuncts and one of the other full-time people who wanted to do face-to-face if possible. And so they listed their classes that way. And then we made sure that there were other sections that were available that would be online or hybrid. And so, for example, I'm doing all online in the fall, so that I'm providing an online alternative to things that are listed as face-to-face. So that's where we are, which means that I've got a plan for 211 being online. So we'll see. We should be getting in our delivery of a pack of fold scopes on Monday, so I can get my hands on that and see if I think it can be useful. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Stephanie. Yeah, that's a big conversation. Yeah, the union representative side of me made when you said faculty decide for it, made me cringe a little bit. I like almost fell out of my chair a little bit thinking about the contract and the contractual things around that and making those decisions. That's a lot of responsibility to put on each faculty member.
And
So
as a
sounds like
first year tenure person, this was crazy because I had to be part of the process of making our adjunct schedules and figuring out who would get offers. And so I got scolded by my tenure committee chair, but it was like, I'm the organized one, so I need to be part of this or it's not getting done.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a tough situation to be in. That's a tough year to begin your tenure process. So
Yeah. My coworker Danny keeps telling me flexibility is the key to everything in biology anyway.
that's great advice. I like it.
I was talking to one of your faculty members from the English department, and I too was very surprised that they let departments make that decision because it feels like a legal thing. Like, I mean, not that you wouldn't ask departments for their input and listen and take it seriously, but it also feels like
This is why we pay administrators, was my thought, was that's what their job is supposed to be.
right.
But I know we've got a history that I'm not up to date on, and between faculty and admin, so I think that's part of it, plus the current contract negotiations that are ongoing, and so that's
Yeah,
what they,
it's always sticky.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, Stephanie. And it sounds like Christy, I didn't catch, I think you mentioned fold scopes a little bit. Christy was saying she's looking forward to hear how the fold scopes, how you like the fold scope. So, Christy, if you're able to, would you want to check in next?
Sure. So I've been teaching field botany. Well, teaching isn't really a good word for it. I wish it was. Today, I finally figured out the digital camera and showed them things. So that was really good. And I hope to do a lot more of that. And maybe I'm starting to get more brave with making Panopto videos, which I've avoided doing. I'm also teaching majors biology, the physiology part. And so I've just Zoomed that every day and recorded this Zoom like we do for this. And that seems to be going pretty good. And so I use McGraw-Hill Connect with that. And I've been using their labs in conjunction with PhysioX 10.0, which is all digital, all online. And you don't have to use the Adobe Flash player. So I had the college was able to buy a bundle of PhysioX 10.0s so that I could give every student their own code. So we've been doing that. So together with the PhysioX labs and the McGraw-Hill Connect has virtual labs now too. So I've been using both of those and just kind of snowing them with labs because I thought I was bothered by my testing, but I think I've got that figured out. And next fall, I plan to use HonorLock and just do that. But right now, I'm not filming them while they test. And I've just been taking your guys' advice on trying to have questions they can't just look up and just doing the best I can with that. And I feel a lot better about it. I think the scores are about what they would be in class now. So I feel better about that. So that's it. So I've been doing the majors biology and the field botany today, just right after this class, because parks opened up. I'm going to run down to the Feathers to Frenchman Coulee, and I invited the students to meet me there. So I don't know if anybody will make it, but that's one place where we would normally take a field trip. So I'm just going to see if anybody can come. And if they can't, I'm still just going to take pictures and catalog what was there and then provide the information so that they can go look. And I'm thankful that the parks are opening up now so that we can actually say it's okay to go out there and look. But I've been pretty sad about field botany actually. And then non-majors biology, they're just seem to be having a ball. So I asked each one of them how they were doing, and most of them seem to be doing good in non-majors biology. But I guess it's field botany that is probably the class that makes me feel sad. But I've been taking some of your guys' advice. I've ordered the magnifying loops. I ordered a bunch of stuff, and then it wasn't coming, and I finally found out that my lab person was sick and hasn't been out to the college, and no one knows if anything got delivered. So I just need to go out there and find the magnifying glasses and everything, and then I'm going to try to get those to the students before it's too late. So that's it.
Thanks, Christy. And it's okay to feel that way by class. I know field botany is a tough one to try to transition online, and I think that each one of these classes has its own unique challenges. But I think something too, like when you're saying, I don't know if it's teaching, it's also try to think of yourself as a facilitator as best you can in those situations, and help them get to those spots. But I'm sure we all are harder on ourselves than we should be. So it sounds like you're doing some really cool things though. So just know that we're supporting you, and you're doing a great job. So keep it up.
And we're going to want to hear an update about your field trip. Where did you say you're going
Yes.
again?
It's called Frenchman Coulee, but it's also known as the Feathers, and it's a place where people like to come and go rock climbing, but it's down by Vantage on the Columbia River. So there's a lot of nice plants that grow there, especially in the dune area by the river, and then up by the cliffs, a lot of talus, a lot of dryland plants. So it's a really good field trip. So I'm hoping that we find some things.
It's one of my favorite spots in the universe.
Is there?
Yeah, like I know exactly where you're talking about. And like when we were on family vacations, we used to drive over the Columbia River at Vantage.
Yeah.
And it's just, I always just think it's so beautiful. It makes me want to go swimming.
Yeah.
So now I'm always going to think of you and your students whenever I'm there. So.
It is a really beautiful area at sunset when the sun's going down and casting on the cliffs, and it's really cool. So.
Thank you, Christy. Appreciate it. I think there's someone else on here, Green River College, I don't know if it's natural sciences. Not sure who that is, if you wanted to share.
Hi, my name's Monica. I work at Green River College. Sorry I haven't been able to join these smaller groups yet, but we're out in Auburn, Washington, and I teach an applied field botany class. And so this one, I teach a couple of them, but this one specifically focuses on wildflowers. So I guess I could turn my camera on here. There we go. Here I am. So we ended up buying a bunch of GoPros, and GoPro ends up selling. There's an underwater magnifying lens. It's made for scuba diving actually, but it flips on and off the GoPro. It's on a little hinge, and that has been amazing because what I've been doing is I've been hiking about 4 days a week, and I take it with me wherever I go, and then I do little 45-second videos of each plant that I come across, and then I keep those, and every week I make a wildflower walk video just showing my students what's blooming out there so that if they're out and about, they can identify things. And then I save those video snippets, and the way I've designed the class this particular quarter because of this setup is that I'm teaching it in family units. So we'll go through Liliaceae, and so then I'll go through my library of these little snippets, and I'll grab all the Liliaceae and I'll throw all those snippets together. And I'm using a software called Adobe Rush. I tried other video editing software, and I am not technologically profound. I would much rather have my nose in Hitchcock than in a computer. So I found that to be just what I needed. You can import the videos, you click on them in the order you want them to patch together, you hit run, and then you upload it to YouTube because the files are too big for Canvas or Blackboard. So I have a private YouTube channel now with about 16 videos, and I try to post one family video a week, and I'll put like 3 families at the same time, and then 1 wildflower walk video a week. And so I've been driving all over with this new freedom. I've gotten out to Cowiche Canyon, I've gone to more desert, I've gone all the way west side coastal. So I've been able to grab a lot, but what I'm trying to figure out is the students are supposed to, as a course objective, learn how to do Hitchcock, and Hitchcock and Cronquist. And so I haven't come up with a good way, and I'm really interested to see if you guys have. My students have been introduced to Hitchcock in my tree class that focused specifically on trees and shrubs. However, it's a lot harder when you get to the wildflowers. And so the idea behind teaching families is that I can get them to skip to the family key if they can recognize key family traits to make it easier, but I still have not figured out um, how to get them through that key when they can't hold the same plant I'm holding at the same time. And if they're holding something up to their camera, I can't see it, the ovary or how many carpels it has, things like this. And so I've kind of avoided it up to this point in hopes that we can get out in the field together a little bit more. But my school, it sounds like it's dragging its feet compared to some of your all's. They've told us we can't even have students meet us out in the field right now. And so we were really hopeful and got a no on that to start with. We're hoping that in another week we can come up with some safety protocols that they'll accept. But have any of you guys successfully gone through Hitchcock with your students?
Monica, I'm Stephanie. I'm the new full-time biologist working with Danny.
Oh, yes!
Nice to meet you too. I think, are you the person who, yeah, you're the other author of our wildflower book.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've talked to Danny, but we've been easing our 213 students into Hitchcock.
Mhm.
So he put together, he's been doing lots of pictures and stuff. And so our labs, we built them up through first just using the artificial key in the very beginning. And he even made a simplified version. And like he called it the breadcrumbs, right? I chose 1B, then 2A, and like keeping track of that. And then we had them do PowerPoints for lab where he provided a bunch of pictures of species.
Mhm.
And then we used this wildflower book with the dichotomous key kind of like trails that you guys put together. And for every pair, they had to have a slide with a picture that shows why they picked what they did.
Yeah,
And
I've done that one. That's a good idea.
And then this week now we're asking them to do the same thing, but with Hitchcock. So again, we have the pictures, and again, they're going to show us each decision that they've made. But the idea is now they're doing it with the complicated book, and we'll see how that works. But that was the kind of stepping up process that we used.
Okay, so something similar, maybe you could give me a little bit of feedback on if I'm not monopolizing this. I've been dying to ask this question of botanists, so please excuse me. So one thing, I'm going to pair up with our navigation class, and we're going to go walk a quarter corner section line, and we're having the students design. They're the same students in the nav class as the wildflower class, and so we're having 4 different groups design 4 different transects with the intent of trying to find the highest blooming biodiversity, so just what's in bloom. And then I'm going to walk the lines for each group out there, and we've got a hot spot, and we're going to live stream it. And then I'm going to be taking pictures of each flower as they go. And so like the meadow, one of the transects will be in a meadow, for example. That group will have all their pictures sent to them. And then they're in 9-person groups, which I do not like. It's a little too big, but we didn't know how to fit that many transects in and not walk 120 miles. And so with that, I'm hoping to just send them images that they can then identify. Are you finding though, Stephanie, that when they get the images, my concern is they're not going to have enough visual clues to get all the way through Hitchcock, right? And I don't have time to key every single one of them out to know which ones need an ovary cross section and which ones need a close up of the stipules,
Danny's been the one doing all of that because I'm new, so I'm doing a lot of course development for myself, and so I'm guessing that he's stuck to the ones that he knows what they need, and so I will after this. Are you part of the Canvas shell for this group?
Yeah.
I will upload the latest set of stuff we've put together. But for this one, so he put together a PowerPoint for them that has multiple images of the same organism from like a stepped back view, so they can see that it's terrestrial, and they can see, shady or not, and then like the top, the bottom, like he's even gone in and done the draw thing and highlighted specific features that they should pay attention to, or this is a close up of this part. But we just assigned that one. Well, only my sections have it assigned. I think his get it next week. So I don't know how successful they will be. But I think he's primarily having them do conifers, 2 ferns and 1 horsetail this time. So,
Oh, okay.
so we're
Okay.
easing them in again before we.
Okay, that's really helpful. And you guys, if you guys are interested in any of my videos, I have found a couple of errors, and I just want to be really upfront with that. Like, I was rushing through the field and called it a lily and iris, or iris a lily, and just stupid little mistakes like that you would have to preview them and then clarify with your class that there was an error. But I'm happy to send those links or put it on a page up on that Canvas shell, and you can send your students to watch these crazy things. I will warn you though that I'm not immune to the occasional swear word, so you have to decide if that's okay with you or not. It's just who I am. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It's just who I am, but you have to decide if you want that or not. Thank
I
you.
love this. And I do want to say all of us in this room have never made any mistakes. Everything I've sent out has been perfect. So I won't be needing that. I'm just kidding.
What is the saying? Is it one and done, or what is it? But I've totally just been doing that. Like, I've just laughed because I've made videos just like that. And then I realized, oh, there's 4 mistakes I made right then. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm posting it.
Done is better than perfect.
Yes.
I wanted to point out can you hear me? I don't know if I'm popping up or not. In the Botany Canvas shell, I put in Ruth's unknown number 1 as an example. Did you find that?
I hadn't looked at that one yet. No, I
Okay,
didn't.
so it's a conifer, and I used my iPhone as well as a video microscope that could get closer images. And I'm not teaching right now. I could maybe generate some really nice magnified images of like cross-section, longitudinal sections of particular flowers, but I'd have to find them locally, and I'm in Spokane. And so maybe some of the things you would not have where you are, and I would have something different here, which is not a big deal. But we have a lot of native shrubs right now that are flowering, service berries flowering, Cicericium, I don't know what else, other weedy things. But I'd be happy to generate similar unknown exercises. And I have a form that the students would then write every step that they take in Hitchcock. And I provided a key for every step that you would take to get to the right location. And of course, I'm hoping I don't make many mistakes in that myself. But of course, the students get better at it with time. But having it online, they're going to have more time. And in the class, sometimes that is difficult. Some take a lot longer. Doing everything with a 10x hand lens is going to be tricky. But, oh well, there's beauty in looking. So if you want me to do any generation of images that could be digital from a microscope, with compound and dissection, I'd be happy to do that. It'd be fun.
Thank you, Ruth. I'll put my my email in the chat for you.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
I love this. First Stephanie and Monica get to meet, and then Ruth offering up, and there's great ideas. Botany's always a fantastic. You guys always make my Friday better.
You do. Yeah.
But Monica, I want to say thank you for being willing to share those videos. I'm sure they're really good. We all have errors in our videos, and we're all human. That happens for sure. And then Ruth did want to know, and maybe she got the answer, I don't know, but she put in the chat, what was the name of that video editor you were talking about that you use for your videos?
Sorry, I'll type it in the chat just so you guys have it and can refer to it later. I'll also, I can just, while I'm sitting here, put all those YouTube links on. If you guys are interested in using this, it might be easier if I do a public channel, because right now it's link by link. So as I add videos, you won't have access. Would you prefer it here in the chat or in the Canvas shell?
Canvas shell, please.
Perfect. I'll do
Just a one-stop shop. That would be awesome.
Okay, cool.
Also, just jumping off what Lucas just said about, the botanist making all my Fridays better. Every Friday we meet, I'm like, oh, the world is okay. Everything is going to be fine. I was also thinking a COP is only as good as its members. And so if anybody's like, the COP thing's not working for me, it's like, well.
Oh, I like that. I wanted to go back. It sounds like all the ideas, and I appreciate everybody jumping in and sharing with each other. That's fantastic. I wanted to go back to kind of what Ruth brought up at the beginning that I thought would be a good talking point. And then, botany, you get a lot of botany in the Majors Bio series as well. It's, in full teaching and lab philosophy is all kind of similar. So I'd love to just kind of, if anybody wants to jump in and talk about, it could just be their concerns or fears. It could be their thoughts around it, but the idea of like online labs, face-to-face labs, learning and effectiveness, and we can kind of move that into maybe anything about transfer, although I think universities are dealing with the same issue on the transfer thing. So I would be less concerned about that as faculty. I know that's always a concern about how we're preparing our students to move on. And I think because our name's attached to it, we want to have high standards, and I completely understand that. So I would love to talk about the fact that like, how can high standards be in online labs, and like what's the difference between online lab, face-to-face lab? I think that's an important conversation as we continue to move forward with this. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to step back and let you all jump in.
Just to warm up the real scientists. If I could just paraphrase what I've heard from the Majors biology group, and Stephanie and Christy, I know you guys have been part of that conversation. Ruth, I think you have too. But I think the first thing that I was thinking about with Ruth's original question is, like, will the universities accept labs? And really, there's no way for them to tell, first of all, pragmatically, like, was this lab online, was this face-to-face? And this came up a lot really early on with A&P, because Lucas and his colleagues have been teaching A&P online for a really long time, and they've had no transfer issues. Their students are doing well. Their students are getting into the programs they want. And so I guess part of this is, and I think Lucas already alluded to this, like, with very few exceptions, there's nobody monitoring people's like if a college is teaching certain number of sections, which sections were online and which were face-to-face. There's nobody really monitoring that. And so it really does come back to what's the quality of the student learning experience, and are they going to get the skills that they need to succeed in the next course and to succeed in whatever their pathway is. And so in the most recent Majors biology discussion, somebody was asking about dissection methods. And, and so again, like, the conversation to me was really interesting. And I've been thinking about it a lot this week, because he was like, I have dissection videos of students, so students can watch, like, Lucas, what were the animals? They were big animals. I can't remember. Anyway, let's just say.
Well, there was fetal pig and some of the other ones that you normally see, but then he wanted a cricket dissection, right? That's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. And it was so fascinating to just wonder, like, what is it about a cricket dissection? What's the transferable piece there? Is it like, is it the organism? So anyway, so we just had a really interesting discussion about the learning outcomes. And so I think one of the questions that I think is still not quite answered, and we started to talk about this, and Elisa, you were there, I think. You were helping. Yes, of course, you were. This leads us back to the email I haven't answered. What are the core concepts that you really want students to know and be able to do after the majors sequence? And then if that's the case, like, what kind of learning conditions can we create? And I guess I'll also say that there's technical problems with teaching online that can be fixed with watching a training, or there is a best practice, like, how do you facilitate a discussion online? And then there's adaptive challenges that people haven't figured out yet. Like, there's a reason Majors Bio never went online. And so I think one of the one of the things that I think is interesting to think about at the end of this pandemic is we'll find out if it can be done, because we just have to. Um, and the final thing I want to say, and then I'm going to shut up and hopefully I've given enough seeds, is Elliot Stern used to be a VP here in Washington, and he's now a president in California. And he posted something on LinkedIn, and I just happened to see it. And it was about like basically why they're making the decision to go online now. And he was like, so first of all, picture your classroom, you know, like with social distance, like you've got stations, you've got students wearing masks, he was like, the classroom is a relatively easy place to control social distancing. But he was like, imagine the cleaning on your campus. Imagine all the students coming on, you know, like, and all the door handles they're touching, all the, you know, like all the spaces. And so like, for us as educators, like thinking about social distancing in our classes is one thing, but for an institution to think about social distancing is a whole other. And the cost of cleaning and the cost of, and then also what happens if a student does get COVID? How do you let all the students in the class know that they've been exposed to COVID? So there's just like so many things that we've actually never thought through as institutions. And so I guess, Ruth, my thought to you, and just bridging with something Lisa said earlier, I would get ready to teach fully online. And if you have anything face-to-face that has to be done face-to-face, prioritize it early. Like if they really need to learn dissection skills and they really can't learn that online, get them into the lab sooner rather than later to do it. And that is me. And what I think as a non-scientist who's not teaching right now.
So I just want to reply, because that's a very good discussion. Good grief, I hadn't even thought about, walking into the building and touching all the doorknobs on the way to my classroom. You vaguely think about it, but who's in charge of regulating and controlling and making sure it's all okay? Those are all the scary, mysterious, invisible monster thoughts that we have to think about. And how do students feel about it? I had botany students, well, few, at the end of spring quarter that stopped coming to class even before they couldn't come to class anymore. It was their choice. So I'm all for making it online, and I'm old. It's a bummer, but I'm in that high risk category just because I'm over 60, and that's frightening to think about. What about me? And of course I want to do a good job teaching. The only hesitation I have is that if I decide now and tell my department I will go completely online, I am stuck being completely online no matter what happens. So part of me feels like keeping the options open maybe to have a hybrid, so in-person lab with social distancing and smaller class size. And if need be, then go online, but be ready to do that just in case. That seems the best scenario. And of course, my husband says, oh, no, go online. So, I feel that conflict of making sure that I'm safe too. Yeah.
I'm going to try to dig up that article so you could read it, because I think it's well written, and Elliot is very passionate about teacher success and student success. He really knows the importance of faculty professional development and honoring and respecting your faculty. So I always find everything that he writes useful. But another thing he said too is like, as a president, he just can't take the risk that his college might become another COVID hotspot. And to be honest, like I almost posted it to my Facebook page and then I didn't, because the passage I was going to call out was like, higher education, leaders, if you are not shutting down your campus in the fall, or going fully online, then he almost talked about it being irresponsible and giving false hope. And if there's a resurgence in the fall, yeah,
Yeah. And articles that I've read comparing this outbreak to the Spanish flu outbreak and other such infectious diseases, there always seems to be a resurgence, another wave, and the height of that surgence is what's frightening, but a lot of evidence suggests that there will be one in the fall when we have, yeah. So I welcome that article, and I'm going to send it to the administrators at my school and my faculty colleagues, because I think we need to have other perspectives to be able to make a decision. It's like more data, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send it. I'll find it right now.
Okay.
I think that's what he's getting at too when he says it's irresponsible, because what you're ending up with is faculty in these situations having to debate between student effectiveness and their own health and student health. And that's, to me, as a person, but then as a faculty and then as a union rep, it's like no one person on campus should have to decide between their health, their students' learning, and their students' health. And that's the decision people are being put in place when the president, as Jen's saying, doesn't just make that decision to be. And I think that's where a lot of that irresponsibility is, the fact that like you're putting this on specific people to make these decisions. Because even when we do open, there's a lot of concerns around like, well, who controls the social distancing in the classroom? Who controls the student's responsibility to wear a mask? You know, then there's all sorts of things around that, because I mean, there's mask effectiveness and I mean, there's so many things that then get waddled into that gray mess that it's a complex thing. And I think we're going to have more faculty like Ruth is dealing with right now, discussing that in their head and thinking about that as we get closer to the fall. And a lot of colleges have already said they're going online. Then you've seen some universities say, no, we'll be back on campus. So it's, and I was telling somebody earlier today, I was talking to a reporter earlier today about, because they were interviewing us about science labs on our campus, and she was asking about fall, and I said, well, they'll have a decision soon. I said, but we have no idea what we're going to see, other than what Ruth has alluded to with past information. But we have no idea what September looks like. We have no idea what October looks like. So it's so hard to make these decisions, and I think it's normal to grapple with what you're grappling with, Ruth. I think this is a great place to talk about this. I mean, I think it's a great place to have that support and help work through those, especially when we're all isolated from our departments, isolated from, I was telling Jen earlier, it's like I don't have my colleague next to me in my office. I can walk into Katrina Fuller's office and vent, which Katrina, and some of you know who she is in other series. Katrina and I are in each other's office all the time talking, and you don't have that right now. So I think these CEPs are really available right now to have these conversations. So I mean, Tiffany, you wanted to say something, so all yours.
I was just going to say that going hybrid was my initial intent. That way I had the flexibility of not having to spend a lot of time around the students, and then potentially being able to accommodate students who didn't want to come to campus at all, but also basically prepping myself in case we went all online. But during our division discussions, it became pretty clear that there was an unspoken pressure to list online and so we just decided to split the difference, since we had some instructors that wanted to at least try to offer face-to-face. And then that gave me the opportunity to say, you know what, I'll just do the online. And then I have the security of knowing what my plan will be and that it won't change, and that my health, you know, and the health of my students will be fine. Because I had a student that, you know, stopped coming to class early when this all happened because his father is a high-risk person. And so it was like, that's fine. You know, we'll find our way around it. And so, yeah, flexibility.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's important. I just want to see a chat in there about fold scopes. And Katrina Fuller uses fold scopes, so I'd be happy for those who wanted to share some of her feedback on fold scopes. And I sent Stephanie some videos, and I don't know if they came through well or not, but Katrina has her pros and cons on the fold scope. She's used them in microbiology. So if you want, throw my email there. You're happy to email me, and I'll send you the information and protocol she has with Foldscopes and share that. I haven't put it into the Botany page, but I can add it into that as well. Does anybody else want to share about, just talking about labs and online versus face-to-face? Lisa, your mic's off.
I just have another T-shirt to share.
Yes.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, that's
The
it.
only predictability is uncertainty.
Can I see it again? I was looking for that link.
Uncertainty. Something you can always count on. Dad was a math professor, and he got this for me at a conference eons ago. I dug it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's apropos right now.
Yep. Yep.
The only constant is change. I put the link into the chat if folks can try it out, like just try maybe cutting and pasting it just to see if it works.
For the Foldscope?
Oh, sorry, for the crystal ball. You don't need a crystal ball
Oh, thanks.
to make the call for fall.
Yeah. I did look at the videos for the Foldscope, and they look pretty cool. They're kind of amazing. In my class, I spend a lot of time just teaching students how to use a compound scope correctly, and then doing it, practicing, yes. But I'm thinking for online, maybe having a lab where the conceptual parts of the microscope and having some sort of live video talking about functions and parts, but you could get digital images for, the tissues and cells and organelles. So, if it's only the scale of using a compound microscope, that may not be possible. I can't imagine that would prevent somebody from being a biologist someday.
Well, and can I just say that Lucas said that early on, something about the virtual, in the first COP I went to, he said something about the virtual labs being good because the students could do them over and over again, and they didn't let them progress until they did it right. And so after that, I hadn't done one yet. I went out and did the McGraw-Hill Connect one on hand washing and prepping for lab, but it was totally consistent with the CDC recommendations. And I was just laughing because I wasn't doing it right, and it wouldn't let me proceed. And I had to keep doing it over and over and over. And then after I'd done it finally, because it would correct me each time I did it wrong, then it had me do it without looking at any notes. And so then I had to do it from memory, and I did it wrong again. So then I was just laughing because I thought, oh, this is so good, because they have a microscope one. And now I've seen that with Labster too. There's a microscope one, and it won't let you go. If you touch the course adjustment on high power on, or whatever, on a higher lens objective, it won't let you do it. And it'll remind you, you can't do that. And I thought in my regular, especially non-majors lab, half of them aren't listening and ignore me and do the wrong things. And here's this lab that they have to get a score on that won't let them do it wrong. It makes them do it over and over. And I thought, I think some of them are going to get a better education because it forces them to do it right, and they can repeat it for a better score.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Christy, where are those labs that you're talking about? Are they in by any chance, have they been posted to any of the Canvas shells?
So
any of the 16 Canvas shells?
The McGraw-Hill Connect is something I had them do for Major's book. So that's whatever that you have to purchase that, right? Okay. So within that, there's homework assignments, but they're also, and they're adding more and more virtual labs. So they had some simple ones, but now they're adding better ones. And they had the hand washing for lab, but then they had microscope and things like that. So I don't think I can really post that. It's just the McGraw-Hill Connect resource for Brooker biology.
No, you can't. Yeah, that makes sense that we can't share it. So that was what the no was. And then I guess, because I was also thinking, now that I've sat in on all of these COP meetings for the past 6 weeks, it does seem like microscope technique keeps coming up, lab safety keeps coming up. And so I guess I was just starting to think if there's a way we could start to compile some of these larger resources that are kind of transferable across the disciplines. And the hand washing one, just the aseptic technique, just seems like a really important one. Thank you. Lucas is noticing because I called it septic technique. Everyone get as dirty as possible and then do your lab.
Do some experiments.
You got it right today, Jen. You're good. You got
Thank you. I'm learning.
A in there. It was perfect.
Thank you. I'm learning. And I think of all of you every time I read an angry Facebooker post something about how they have a friend who's a doctor who said this is a hoax.
Oh, I just decided that I'm not going to be. I think what Christy stated there, though, about like, and what she was referring to was how like the labs, you can redo them. I mean, and they're learning more. Then shouldn't that just inform all of our teaching in reality, right? As we just think about all of our activities, our assessments, the more practice we give people. I think we get so caught up as teachers, like, I got to assess because that's how we were taught, right? I told Jen this the other day, like teaching is one of those unique professions. And if you take like, we go into like education, grad school, they talk about it probably too much, but this like conceptual framework, everybody has their own conceptual framework for teaching because we all got taught for so long, we think we know what a teacher is. No, most people don't walk into a doctor's office and think they know how to be an MD. I know we all have that aunt or uncle that feels that way, but most of the time, right, but people feel like they know what a teacher is. And so we all have this idea of what teaching is because we were taught for years. And so we think, well, we got to assess them at these points and these points and these points. But it's like, as teachers, we all get better teachers because we continually teach and continually practice. And I think when I was talking to the lady from the news place today, they were asking, well, will faculty going online make them better teachers, you think? And I said, yes. I think it's going to, for most of us, I think it's going to make us really reflect on how we teach. Because when you go online, it makes you focus more on student learning. And a lot of times, not that we don't think about that all the time, but in class, you can control how much content you cover by talking if you teach that way, right? And so sometimes if you talk for an hour and cover that content, you feel like, yeah, I covered, that was great. The students were engaged. That was a great lecture that day. And you walk away feeling great. But online, you have none of that. You don't get that cues, that feedback. And so you really have to think about, how do I design learning experiences? And then that goes back to our face-to-face classroom. So I really think what Christy's talking about there should really start to define how we think about all of our assignments, how we design these lab activities, how we make students continually practice the same outcomes over and over and over again to build that competency we want. Just a thought that came to my mind when Christy was talking.
Also, Christy, just thinking about the particular lab experience you described and thinking about what Lucas just invoked about competency-based education. And again, like, there is theoretical, practical knowledge, but I think in a lot of the ways that, in the early ways that we started first thinking about how we were going to redo labs, it was very much like, I'm going to have the students watch a video, or I'm going to do the thing and they'll watch the video. And so what's interesting in what you described is that it really is a competency-based approach, in the sense that students can fail multiple times until they can demonstrate the competency. And so, and I think the question I'm wondering is, we've been really encouraging faculty to build their own labs rather than, purchase paid products for cost reasons and for open educational resources, like for a lot of reasons. But it is making me wonder, like, how do we, like, do I apply for a gigantic NSF grant to see if we can, like, if we could build resources like that? Because I don't know how do we as educators take all of our expertise and build things like that? Or is it possible? Or is that really our jobs? Like, that's what this is making me think.
Great question. Thoughts?
So something that I've been doing, and I know some of the other faculty are doing, is giving more than one attempt at graded like quizzes and then keeping their highest score. We usually have all of the feedback turned off, so they have to kind of go back and review for themselves, but to know how they did. I like it. And I've done that then for my biology 160 labs, where I'm piecing together free online resources and simulations that I can find. And then they finally go to like a quiz page to enter in their information, and they can do that over and over and over again. So other than that, you'd need all of the programmers to help with something that big.
We have a computer science COP.
Are they down for that?
Yeah. Someone else has actually suggested. Yeah, Stephanie, I'm glad you actually mentioned that. Like, again, I think it's more than a pie in the sky idea. Like, I think it's actually a really good idea. Like, could we ask other faculty in the system with content expertise and skills to help us? And could there be some kind of linked, or could their students help? And I guess that also is making me wonder with the astronomers, a couple yesterday, we were also talking about, how do you engage your students in creating some of this material? Like, if the students are teaching each other or the students are teaching themselves, especially if they're creating artifacts that you guys could use later for other students. I know that Spanish has done this, like with the textbook publisher materials. There was a Spanish faculty member in Spokane, Erin, who her students were like, but we want the drills, we want the exercises. And so she was like, great. And somehow she community organized all of her students over several quarters to create those materials. And so in addition to asking our colleagues, like, is there also a way for us to link students creating artifacts with their learning?
Monica, thanks for joining us. Appreciate that. Go take care of your kiddo for sure. We had a good conversation with astronomy yesterday around that conversation. I think that's important to think about. And I think about like computer science faculty, they're students. Like, we have students in our computer science program right now creating an app so people can see where there's parking spots available. It's like, why couldn't they be working on projects to do something cool in science? I mean, there's all sorts of ways we can work together across disciplines to meet each other's needs. I think that's a fantastic idea and way to think about it, for sure. I know this has been a great conversation. I can't believe it's already 3 o'clock, but I just want to be respectful of everybody's time since it's 2:58. But if there's anything else anybody wants to share or talk about here before we shut it down and let you go on with your weekend and Friday evening and do what you need to do, please use this time to get out there now.
Christy's got to get to Vantage.
Yeah, I have one thing that I'd like to say. In the biology majors, the organization of the canvas shell, with Lisa's help, changed to topic organization. And that just seems so useful. I'm wondering if botany should go that direction as well.
I'm calling up the canvas shell right now.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a while. Maybe they already did that.
Yeah,
So,
it's still under like more or activities. And originally, that was our idea. It was like, how do we get people to come to like these learning outcomes or these topics in their courses and use those as the guide? And then we got into the COPs and everybody's like, no, we need these, because immediately that was the concern, right? Like, immediately, what do I do around this? What do I do around this? But I think now that people are feeling more comfortable and are at a better stage, they're like, yeah, we need to have it more topic oriented. So I think, Ruth, you're hitting the nail on the head there for sure.
So Ruth,
Yes.
Sorry. So Lisa did create a new potential organization, but Lisa, it's not, you haven't updated the canvas shell yet. You just sent it to me, right?
Yeah. I don't see any changes here.
I sent it to the group, and I believe Lucas said that he was going to do the reorganizing.
Oh, cool. Okay. So if I look in my inbox.
Yes, Lisa's calling me out of my being behind there. Yes, I emailed her back and said I would be happy to take care of that.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's the list.
chemistry of life, which also, Lisa, I'll just say, seems like a perfect, like, in a future generation of Canvas shells, I'm really excited to have the chemistry and the bio ones sort of, you know, like, because I think the chemistry of like it yeah. I'm having an inarticulate Friday. Cells, genetics, evolution. Yeah, this looks great. Thanks for doing that. So Ruth, then what's our topic for this Canvas shell? What are our topics for this Canvas shell?
Well, I was just looking in my Raven Biology of Plants, and they have a like a brief contents, and a lot of the similar topics of the broad, biology majors, but here instead of just the cell, it's the plant cell. And then energetics would include just the flow of energy and respiration and photosynthesis. And then a genetics and evolution. And then a diversity of plants going through like non-vascular, seedless vascular, gymnosperms, angiosperms. Then it goes into the angiosperm plant body, physiology of seed plants, and ecology are the main headings. I could type that up and send it to somebody.
Lucas, do you have capacity to do it?
I missed the last couple. If I get the last couple, I can. I got the angiosperm plant body, and then my brain went blank.
Okay, physiology of seed plants. And then ecology.
I felt like I was back teaching my biology 100 class from a few years ago as I was writing these out. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, we can. Does that seem like a good idea to everyone if the shell is organized in topics like that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll do my best within what's there to reorganize the things that are already on there into these topics. But if you see a problem, just move it and change it however you see fit. You're the botany experts. I have taught a little bit enough to get myself in trouble, but I'm much more of a human biologist. And I'm putting into my calendar right now on setting aside 45 minutes to redo this one and majors biology so that I don't forget, so that next time Lisa isn't calling me out again.
Thanks for doing all you're doing, you guys. You're working hard.
No, we're glad to do it. I feel more energized after this meeting than I did before this meeting. Like I feel like I can go out and like my Friday has begun. I'm ready to go. So these are great.
Now I'm going to go have one with the English faculty. My darlings, my English folks. Well, this has been amazing as usual. The botanists are so great. Yeah, you guys are all wonderful. I wish I had had you as teachers.
We would have loved to have you as a student.
Thank you. I was pre-med, and I still believe that if my first biology teacher and chemistry teacher had tilted their assignments, I may have been, I could have been a star.
You're still a star, Jen, just in a different field.
Thank you.
Well,
The last thing I said was muted, but I said, it's just plants are cool. You can't get around that.
Yeah. You can't. Well, thanks everyone, and see you at our next meeting. So I will be sending out a message to the entire STEM COP list with a full list of the calendar, like the full schedule, and all of you should have it. It's in the Outlook invite, but it might not be super current, so I'll be sending that out. And but feel free to attend any of the COP meetings because they're all great.
And the master schedule will go into each COP resources area as well.
Alyssa's pushing out content. Another thing Alyssa did this week was she made some core content for all the COPs that is really awesome. So and beautifully designed.
Oh, you're so nice.
Yeah, it'll help with if you want to post the comments, those kind of things, and a lot of other really useful information. So we're excited to see those in there.
And we can add to it if there's something you feel is missing. Just let me know, and I'll do up a page for everybody.
All right.
All right,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Have a great weekend.